All right, so imagine this, right? We get a blizzard raging outside, snow's coming down hard, and in the middle of all that white chaos, you find a man dead.
Oh, man.
Not just any man, though. We're talking a Boston police officer, John O'Keefe, found dead right there in the snow. Outside a fellow officer's house after they'd been out drinking together. Sounds like an open and shut kind of case, maybe. But not so fast, my friend. Today we're taking a deep dive into the Karen Reed case, and let me tell you, it's a twisted one.
I bet.
We're going to be digging through court documents, witness testimonies, forensic reports. And the thing is, they all seem to be pointing in different directions.
That's complicated.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
And you know what? You, the listener, you get to be the jury on this one.
I like that. I like that.
So January 2022, Canton, Massachusetts. That's where our story takes place. John O'Keefe is found dead outside this guy Brian Albert's house. Now, O'Keefe's girlfriend, Karen Reed, she immediately becomes the focus of the investigation, right? Initially, it seems like maybe it was just a really tragic accident, alcohol involved, a night gone wrong. They hit her with a manslaughter charge. But then, boom, it escalates. They up the charge to second-degree murder. And that changes everything.
Wow, yeah. That's a whole different ballgame. Implies intent, right?
Exactly. It's not just an accident anymore. Now they're saying she meant to do it.
Heavy stuff. So how do they build this murder case? What's their argument?
Well, the prosecution, they start painting this picture of a rocky relationship.
Okay.
They talk about arguments that the couple had. They bring up angry voicemails that Karen left for John the night he died.
Oh, boy.
And then they present this physical evidence that they say directly links Karen to the crime scene.
Let's talk about that evidence. What exactly are they looking at?
All right, so they're pointing to a broken taillight on Karen's car. Then there are shards of glass they found near John's body. Apparently, he had a glass in his hand earlier that night. And get this, a single hair on her bumper.
A single hair?
One single hair.
Wow. And they're building a whole case around this.
Oh, yeah. They're going all in on this. Their theory is that Karen and John, they're having this heated argument. Karen gets behind the wheel. Maybe she'd had a bit too much to drink. And tragically, she hits John while backing up.
Okay, I'm seeing how the pieces fit together from their perspective, but what about the other side of the story? What does the defense have to say?
Oh, they're ready to fight. They come out swinging, saying that the prosecution's case is built on, sand.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they point out all these inconsistencies in what the witnesses are saying. Plus, they say there's just not enough solid evidence to prove that John's injuries came from being hit by a car.
Interesting. So they're poking holes in the prosecution's narrative. What else?
Well, they challenge the prosecution's timeline. They even come up with other explanations for how that taillight could have gotten broken. Maybe it happened before that night, they suggest.
Okay, I see. They're trying to create doubt. Right. Casting a wider net.
Exactly. And then they drop this bombshell. They bring up the possibility that maybe John was hurt inside the house, not outside.
What? Inside the house?
Yeah, maybe he got injured by a dog. Apparently, someone at that gathering had a dog.
Oh, so now we've got a whole different scenario on the table.
Right. It's like a game of Clue, but with real-life consequences.
Yeah, and a lot more at stake.
For sure. But just wait. It gets even wilder.
Wilder? How?
Out of nowhere, this tipster pops up. And this person claims that John was actually beaten up inside Brian Albert's house and that someone moved his body later.
Hold on. Someone beat him up. This just took a very dark turn.
It did. And then, get this, on Jennifer McCabe's phone, she was the guest at the party that night, they find a Google search for how long to die in cold.
Wait a minute. How long to die in cold? Why would someone search that?
And here's the kicker. She made that search hours before they even found John's body.
This is getting seriously suspicious. If it was a simple accident, why would anyone be Googling that?
Exactly.
And all these inconsistencies with the witnesses, something's definitely not adding up.
Right. And then you start looking at how they handle the evidence. They were collecting blood samples in red Solo cups, for crying out loud.
Red Solo cups. Are you serious? That's pretty unprofessional.
Yeah, and guess what else? Footage from Karen's home security system from that night. Gone. Vanished. And that footage could have shown whether her taillight was already broken.
Conveniently missing, huh? It's like every time we peel back a layer, there's another red flag.
It really makes you wonder if someone's trying to hide the truth, doesn't it?
It really does. And that's where this idea of reasonable doubt comes in. It's so important in this case. I mean, do we really know for sure what happened to John O'Keefe? Not really.
Right. And the more we look into it, the more questions pop up. And it really starts to make you wonder, about the prosecution side of the story. Like, are they missing something?
Yeah, exactly. It's not just about the physical evidence, it's about the people involved, their relationships, their motives.
For sure.
We've got this tight-knit group of cops and their friends, a bunch of connections, maybe even some favors and agreements going on behind the scenes.
It's starting to sound less like a simple case and more like
A conspiracy.
yeah, like a conspiracy or
Well,
something.
think about those text messages between Michael Proctor, the lead investigator, and Julie Albert Bryan's wife.
Oh, yeah, those were strange.
They were pretty friendly, right?
What?
And it just makes you wonder, was he really impartial, especially with those offers of thank you gifts after John died?
Yeah, and it's like straight out of a TV show.
Yeah.
A conflicted investigator, maybe some witnesses being pressured. It all points to a cover-up.
Exactly. And if they were so sure that Karen was guilty, why all the shady behavior?
Good point.
Yeah.
And then there's that missing footage from Karen's Ring camera. The night John died, it's gone.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
And she says her taillight was already broken before that night, that she backed into John's truck earlier. If that's true, it totally blows the prosecution's timeline out of the water. Their whole case falls apart.
And that missing footage is super suspicious. Malfunction, deleted on purpose, who knows?
Right. And it just makes people doubt the whole investigation,
For sure.
So the defense is saying this footage could prove she's innocent, but the prosecution says, well, maybe Karen got rid of it herself.
It's a classic he said, she said situation.
It is. And then there's that Google search on Jennifer McCabe's phone, remember?
Yeah.
How long to die in cold.
Yeah, how could we forget?
And she searched that hours before anyone even found John's body. The prosecution tried to say that Karen asked Jennifer to do that search while they were looking for him,
Uh-huh.
but the timing is way off. It doesn't make sense.
Right, doesn't add up. And then we've got the data from John's phone, too.
Oh, right.
The prosecution says the steps he took after 6 a.m. when they say he was already dead prove Karen's lying.
Okay.
But the defense says, hey, what about the steps he took right around the time he would have gone into Brian Albert's house? That doesn't fit with Karen dropping him off and leaving, right?
Right. It's like everyone's interpreting the evidence to fit their own version of what happened.
Exactly. A real battle of the narratives.
Yeah.
And this is where the jury has to really step up. They've got to sift through all this confusing stuff, figure out who's telling the truth, and decide if the prosecution has actually proven their case.
It's a tough job, that's for sure. And as this trial goes on, it seems like every new thing we learn just makes it more complicated. Witnesses are changing their stories. People at that party were talking to each other in secret. There are even rumors that the lead investigator tried to get witnesses to say certain things.
Wow.
I know, right? It's a total mess. And with that federal investigation still going on, it feels like we're just scratching the surface.
Yeah, I agree. This case isn't just about whether Karen did it or not. It's about whether there was bad behavior from the cops, maybe even a whole system set up to protect their own.
I think that's why so many people are paying attention to this case. It's about more than just who committed a crime. It's about power and corruption, and whether we can really trust those in charge, to be fair.
It's a big question, and it's not an easy one to answer, but I think it's important to keep asking it. It's easy to get lost in trying to solve the mystery, But we can't forget that someone actually died here. This isn't just some story we're talking about.
You're right. It's a real tragedy, and a family lost someone they loved.
Exactly. So, yeah, we all want answers, but we have to be careful. Look at everything with a critical eye. Question everything.
Don't just jump to conclusions.
Right. Don't get swayed by what other people are saying or by some dramatic story. We need to look at the facts.
And be fair to everyone involved.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up our deep dive here, what are the big takeaways for our listeners? What's the overall message?
Good question. What do you think?
Well, this case shows us that the justice system, it's supposed to be fair, but it's run by people, and people make mistakes. People have biases.
That's not perfect.
Right. And that's why it's so important to have due process, innocent until proven guilty, and we have to base our decisions on real evidence.
And the truth is usually a lot more complicated than it seems at first.
Oh, definitely. And there are always different sides to every story. We need to listen to all of them before we decide what we think.
Makes sense. What about social media? How do you think that plays into all this?
That's a tough one. Social media can be great for keeping people informed, but it can also make things worse. People jump to conclusions, they attack each other.
Yeah, and sometimes that can affect the trial itself.
Exactly. It's a real problem. So I think we have to be careful about what we read and what we believe, and we have to be respectful of everyone involved.
Even if we disagree with them.
Even if we disagree with them. This isn't just entertainment. These are real people's lives.
So bigger picture, What else does this case tell us?
Well, I think it raises questions about the police, you know? If there was misconduct, it needs to be investigated.
We have to be able to trust the people who are supposed to protect us.
Right. And that means holding them accountable when they do something wrong.
So we've been through a lot of information today, lots of twists and turns.
Yeah, it's a real maze.
But we still don't know for sure what happened to John O'Keefe. Was it an accident? Was it something worse? And if someone tried to cover it up, will they ever face justice?
I don't know. But the trial's still going on, so hopefully we'll get some answers.
What's your final thought for our listeners? What should they be thinking about after listening to this?
Don't believe everything you hear. Don't be swayed by the loudest voices. Look at the evidence, ask questions, and make up your own mind. And remember, justice takes time. It's not always easy, but it's important.
Well said. And to all our listeners out there, stay informed, stay engaged, and as always, keep those minds sharp. We'll see you next time.